Well, good afternoon, my friends. I thought I would just stop by today to answer a few questions on the previous video, which was taking the mystery out of parking your threads. I had a couple questions, and with that, I thought, well, let's show you one more way. And today I'm going to stitch my rows vertically instead of horizontally. So just thought I'd do a short one today to answer a few questions and talk a little bit about stitching this way. Because you know, there are all kinds of ways to stitch your heaven and earth design. No right way, no wrong way, only the way that you want to do it. So I didn't tell you in the beginning that you have reached the NeedleBugg, and my name is Karen, and today is Sunday, August the 20th. So we are here today to talk a little bit about this. I had a question from Karen Riley, 9425, who asked what I used to mark the blocks on the previous video. On that particular piece, so that you could see them very well, I used a friction pen. Oh, I can't find my chalk pencil. Okay. I used the friction erasable pen. Now, many people use these. They do disappear with heat. However, they can reappear with cold. If you use a friction pen, it is best to remove it with the heat and then wash it, because just erasing it with heat still leaves the residue of the ink on your fabric, and it can come back with time, or when it gets cold, or sometimes for no apparent reason. So I would suggest that if you use this, wash your piece afterwards to get all that residue of the ink off so that it does not come back. Sometimes it comes back as a yellow line. So depending on, if you have dark colors like this underneath it, it really is not going to matter. However, if you have areas of very light colors, white, creams, light tans, it could very well show through. So just a word of caution if you use these. Many people use them, many people like them. What I used on this particular piece and what I have here today is Angachi. God shed his grace. What I used on this one is a Bohin marker. It is a fine marker blue. And I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. This is a marker by Bohin. It does come out. It does wash out. And again, I'm not real worried about it because most of the colors in this particular piece are very dark. So again, I would caution, do a test. Do a test. The other thing I use, and I was remiss and did not bring it. I thought I had it here and I actually don't. I don't know why I took it out of my container, but it is a Bohin chalk pencil. And what it uses is ceramic chalk, like a dressmaker's chalk. That is my favorite all-time pencil to mark fabric with, because that for sure does come out. In fact, when I use that, I don't mark very far ahead, because just rubbing your hands, when your hand rubs across, it rubs off. So we know it's going to wash off just fine. And I have had no problems with that whatsoever. So those are my suggestions for how to mark fabric. Karen, I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Jody Fear 776 left me a message that how did she say? She's intimidated by all the ways to stitch and park on a full coverage piece. And you know what, Jody? I can totally understand that. Absolutely understand that, because there are many different ways to stitch. The trick is to experiment a little bit, maybe on some scrap fabric, with some different ways, and attempt to find something that you reasonably like before you start. Like if you want to do parking, start by stitching in a column and pick something that, or just make up a design where you're only using maybe 2 or 3 colors and you're placing them randomly throughout the column, and you're parking in each row or in a 10 by 10 section or something to that effect, and see if you can come up with, oh, maybe this is a reasonable thing for me to do. And then maybe it's not. But that's a good way to experiment a little bit and try and discover a way that maybe you can be comfortable with and that you would enjoy stitching. Okay, because everybody's different. Absolutely, everybody's different. And as we all know, there's no right way, there's no wrong way, there's only the way that you choose to do it. Now, with that, I will add one other thing. Full coverage designs will only intimidate you if you allow them to. Okay, it's just like anything else. If you keep thinking in your head, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, then you're setting yourself up to not be able to do it. You need to start thinking of it as it's just 1x. I can put 1x in, and I can see where that x goes. I know where on the chart that x is supposed to go. And I can see where that color, that symbol is the next time, in whichever version of stitching you decide to use and to park. Okay, I can see I need to start a thread here with this color. I'm going to have this a little bit higher angle than I'm used to stitching. Okay, I can see that, oh, I need to start this color here. It's 413, and it's going to be an X, and I'm going to start it like I always start it. There's nothing strange, unusual, or different about that. So that shouldn't scare me. That shouldn't intimidate me. Okay, now I'm just going to finish that X. Okay. Okay, I did an X. Now I can look at my chart and see, all right, let's mark it off here. That, let's make this a little bigger for you. Okay, so we're going to mark it off here that we stitched it. Oops. There. And we stitched this one. And I can see if I'm stitching vertically, I'm going to look at this next row, and I can see I need to put it where I have a park thread, go up 2 squares, and put it right there. Okay, that's one color down. All right, so we're just going to double tap that and say, okay, we put it there. And now we need to start in this next column. Okay, we can do that. I just need to make this just a little bit clearer. I think it's a little bit fuzzy. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Okay, so let's look at the next column. We're going to look down here at these 2 stitches. And we're going to highlight the one at the bottom. When I stitch vertically, I like to start at the bottom and work up. And I do the first half, and then I come back and cross it. So this color is 938, and again, I need to start that thread. I should have looked at this ahead of time because I didn't realize I would have to start so many. I thought I had enough started. Always the best laid plans, don't you think? Okay. So we're going to start this thread. In this spot. So again, Jody, this is just one stitch. You know where the stitch goes. It tells you on the chart. We're going to start it in the right spot. Okay. We're going to do the first half. Oh, and look at that. There are no more in this vertical. So we're going to cross it right away. And the next occurrence is in the next vertical row, the very first stitch. So we're going to put it right exactly there. Okay. And again, cross it off. And again, mark it in the next place. Oh, look, here I have to start yet one more. Oh, my. It's giving you a lot of visuals on all the starting. But this is what happens. I was going to work in columns up and down, but then I decided to go back to the diagonal. So I have the first part of this diagonal done. I have to come back to the top because I finished what I was recording yesterday, and that means I'm starting all new threads up here. So we're going to start in this spot right here, which is this spot right. Oops, I did that again. This spot right here. Do I need to make that bigger for you to see? There we go. Which is this spot right here. So once again, we're going to start that thread. So Jody, this is how you think of it. One color, one stitch, one at a time. And then you go, oh, you know what? That's not so bad. It's just a stitch like I always do. Now we can see that that one's already stitched, and here we need 2 more stitches of the same color we're working with. So I'm going to do the first half. I don't think today's my lucky day. It took me a while to get set up today till I got my camera, or I'm using my phone, and I got a new application that I'm using, and it's a learning curve. Okay. So now it's just those 2 stitches that match these 2 stitches. So now we can cross these. Come back down and cross them. Okay, so now we did 3 more, and now we just look, okay, where am I going to put that thread next? Where does it happen next? Where it happens, I'm going to mark these off as stitched. So now you can see in the next vertical, it's just above an already stitched stitch. So we put our thread there, park it, mark it, and move to the next color. Okay, and that's stitching on the vertical. The only thing I do different is I work up the column, well, up the row, only doing half at a time and coming back down, stitching the other half. But I work the colors the same way. I just start at the bottom with the first one, work those, come back down to the bottom, park it in the first occurrence on the way up. I work 10 instead of 10 this way, I work 10 this way. The reason I start at the bottom is because when you're at the end, when you get to the end here, if you start at the bottom, it's easy to count up 10 with your stitches. When you get up to the next line, you know you had enough, or you know you have your 10. If you want to start at the top and work down, you have to count up 10. If it doesn't happen to fall on the line, you have to be careful with your counting to get up to 10, and then you work down. So I find it's easier to work up. Just my convoluted thinking. But for me, that's easier. So I only have one of this stitch, or of this color. And then I'm going to mark it as stitched. I have no other, so I'm going to look down my column. Oh, it's down here again. So I am going to park it right here. Okay, so I hope that explains a little bit of how I stitch vertically. Now, the other question I had, and that takes a little bit more of an explanation, and let's see if I can give you that explanation. Motif Knit wrote to me and said she has a project kitted up and it's sitting in a drawer since last year. She plans to take it out and get started stitching on it, which is absolutely fabulous. Give it a go. Give it a go, and we're always here if you need help. She never heard of the method called Royal Rows, Royal Rose, R-O-W-S, and asked for an explanation. There is a group, a Facebook group for Royal Rose. Allison is the person who came up with the concept. Some other people helped her name it, but Allison came up with the concept. And it's the easiest way for me to explain it. I tried it. I found that I can do it. I think I understand it, but it's not a method that's for me. What you do is you start in your upper right-hand corner. That is, if you're starting a brand new piece. You start in your upper right-hand corner and you stitch. Now I have some blocks marked here so I can show you. You stitch 10 stitches wide. 10 stitches down is 1 block. Another 10 stitches down is 2 blocks. So you complete those 2 blocks. At the end of those 2 blocks, if you have threads that still get used beneath there, you park them in the 3rd block down. If you don't, you can look over here to the next 2 blocks. Okay. Oh, you can see it here a little bit better. You would stitch these 2. If there's nothing below with that color, but it's over here, you can park that color over here in the appropriate place. You keep working across your whole pattern. 2 rows, 10 blocks each. A 10 by 20 area is called a tower. And this, I don't have all the terms. You start and end your threads by putting your thread in this block to start or end from this block. So if I'm going to start a new thread, I would go down over here, come up in the appropriate, Allison, correct me if I'm telling this wrong, come up in the appropriate place, stitch all those stitches. If I need it down here, park it and keep going. If I need it over here, park it and keep going. Actually, I think you would start them over here in this 3rd block, to be truthful. If you don't need the color anymore, you don't need it here, you don't need it here, then you run it to this 3rd block, leave a short tail, trim it off, and you're going to be ending it by stitching over it. The thought is that that helps prevent column lines, because if you remember in the last video, my advice was don't leave those straight lines, because that's what causes your column lines. But in the Royal Rose method, you do stitch in straight lines, but when you're ending your threads, you're carrying them always to the right to end them. The thought is that's going to help prevent your lines. Okay. Like I said, this is not a method. I know the basic concept of it, but I do not know all the ins, outs, wherefores, what have yous, and whys, because it's not a method. I tried it, and it just was not a method that I enjoyed. So, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. But that's pretty much the concept, where you stitch 10 stitches wide by 20 rows. Park either below or to the right. Go back and do 10 stitches wide by, again, 20 rows. And keep working across your entire chart, or however far you want to go, before you drop down, and then do the next 2 blocks, 10 stitches wide by 20 rows. You would do the next 2 blocks. You would do those all the way across. Now, for people that stitch on scroll frames, that's absolutely fine and wonderful, because you have the whole design exposed so that you can do that. If, however, you stitch in a Q-snap, you might want to limit your area to the Q-snap and complete everything that's in the Q-snap before you move it and move on. And again, Allison, please help me out here. If you're watching this, help me out. And I will advise anyone that's interested in doing Royal Rose to check out Allison's videos. She has a YouTube channel. Her name is Allison Royal, is how she has it on YouTube, I believe. And I think if you just search Royal Rose, R-O-W-S, you should see all of her videos. And she has a series where she explains the whole thing. So you can certainly check those out. It might be a method that you enjoy. There are a lot of people that enjoy that method. She has the Facebook group. Also, to go along with that method of stitching, just like I have the diagonal group to go along with this method of stitching. Yeah, so check her out if that's something that you'd like to do. But I think that answers the questions or the comments that I had that that needed some kind of an explanation. The rest of you that left me comments on that video, thank you so very, very much for your really kind and generous comments. Made me feel very warm and fluffy that I was able to help explain parking and take the mystery out of it for a lot of you. I really, really appreciate it. I do read all your comments. Right now I am a little bit behind on answering comments, so bear with me. I will get there. And I will get either hearted that I have read them, or a comment if it needs something to be, if it's something that needs a comment added. So bear with me. I have at least read them all. I just have not responded yet, but I will get there. So with that, my friends, like I said, I wanted to keep this rather short. I just wanted to come on and answer some questions. I just wanted to show you a little bit on how to stitch vertically. And for those of you that are a little bit anxious, intimidated, scared, not so sure you want to try parking, just step back and say, it's just an X. It's only one X. One X, and putting it in the next place that I need that X is not going to get the best of me. Think of it one X at a time. Put it in the next occurrence of that color, and then go to the next X. It's just an X. It's just one at a time. You can do it. You can do it. It's nothing to be scared of. And guess what? We all make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. They can be fixed. I will fess up and say I have stitched over a mistake many times. Stitched over it with the correct color. It's not the end of the world. It's not the hill we're going to die on. So think of it more in those terms than looking at it as, oh my God, it's such a big picture and all those hanging threads. You know what? Hanging threads kind of get the best of me sometimes too, where it's like, oh, they're just driving me crazy to see all those hanging threads. But if you limit yourself to just 10 stitches wide, with the exception of high confetti areas, you are not going to have a gazillion hanging threads. Like I said, with the exception of high confetti areas. High confetti areas, yeah, you may have quite a few. But for the most part, what you see here is probably, for this is probably the most I'm going to have till I get down a bit further to down in here where the fence is. Then I'll get some more. But I'll zoom this out a little bit more so you can see more of this. There we go. There you go. Is that fence not absolutely wonderful, gorgeous? Look at how that's coming along. I am so thrilled. And that's another reason that I like this method, is because now I can just watch this fence grow. Yeah. Yeah. One stitch at a time. It's all it is. Look for the next occurrence. If you have 2 or 3 stitches in a row, hey, that's awesome. And then you look for the next occurrence. That's all it is. You control what you stitch. Don't let your stitches control you. Okay, that's my soapbox for the day. I will see you all the next time. Probably do a longer stitch with me this week sometime. So I will see you all then. Have a great rest of your weekend and stitch on. Remember, there's no rules in cross stitch, only the ones you set for yourself.